Hello, everyone. My name is Teepa Snow, and I'm a community liaison for Interim Healthcare. And it is an absolute privilege, joy, blessing, all of the above. Teepa Snow, I have been reading about you, studying, and I do have a funny story that when I heard your name, right, I was like, Teepa Snow. I live in Amarillo, Texas. We get snow. And I was like, snow. Yes. Anyway, this is such a fantastic topic. And I'm going to go ahead and I was raised on a farm.
Yes, ma'am.
And I so appreciate that you were too. So go ahead and take it away. I'm going to mute myself.
Oh, you're going to mute yourself. Well,
Yes.
how are you going to do this then if you mute yourself and I'm just here by myself?
You know what? I'm going to stay in the conversation, 100% in the conversation. I just want to make sure that there's not any kind of noise feedback.
Oh,
So I'm
see,
going
that
to
is
check
it.
in. Well, and I have to tell you that I want you to introduce yourself because I want to be respectful of you me giving you the appropriate introduction.
Yeah.
And then I'll have to tell you what it's been like on Zoom doing all these. I love interviews.
Yeah. So you're going to have to tell me what you want to learn after that. So,
Oh, 100. Well, we have 30 minutes and I'm excited.
well, we should be able to fill those in no time at all.
Absolutely. We're several minutes in and I'm already like, yes. Okay. So I'm going to mute myself just so you can do your introduction.
Absolutely. Well, hey, everybody, I'm Teepa Snow, and I'm an occupational therapist with over 40 years of clinical experience. And I work with people living with dementia. And I've done that for quite some time. I am the leader of a group known as Positive Approach to Care. And we use an alternate way of looking at what happens when people have brain change living with dementia and how they progress. And rather than using a model that's based on deterioration and what they can't do anymore, we focus in on, well, if they lose something, got it, but what do they have left? And we're really committed to trying to identify what's still working and how we use that.
That is good. I want people to comment so that once I can actually show your comments, because I do see that we have quite a few viewers. So I want this to be interactive. So continue, please.
Yeah. And so what I did a long time ago is go, okay, wait. So if there is brain change, yes, there's going to be parts of the brain that actually die. And that's what dementia is all about, is brain starting not to work very well. And then ultimately brain cells and then brain functions starting to deteriorate. However, every time you lose something, there's other parts of your brain that might get activated or stay active. And so that becomes really important to notice.
It is so interesting. And I'll tell you that I'm only recently back into healthcare. I took a break. And so whenever I came back, luckily I came back with Interim, and Interim is home for me. And so Interim allowed me during this uncertainty of everything that's been going on, right? Like, I know I love your facial expressions because it's like,
I know my best.
Yeah, and I've been on the fast track. So continue. This is awesome.
Yeah. So one of the things that we want to think about is, let's talk about language as a for instance. And so people living with dementia, really, as a rule, regardless of the type of dementia, are going to experience changes in the left temporal lobe. That's one of the almost certain areas that seems to be impacted by dementia. Now, some dementias more than others. So if you have something called primary progressive aphasia, it is like, boom, let me hit it hard. Yeah. If you have Alzheimer's, not quite so hard and fast, but still there. If you have the Lewy body, a different kind of language pattern loss, but all left temporal. Go for it.
Yes. Is that, what do we say in layman's terms to the people, like all of these people that are now at home taking care of their loved one, and they're seeing changes?
Yeah. So you're going to see changes in vocabulary, what words come out, what words they can think of, what words they understand. So the words in and of themselves, and the first words with almost all dementias that start being problematic are nouns, the names of things. So I go to find the word I want to say to you, could be somebody's name, could be the name of a place, could be the name of an object, could be the name of a task. And I can't, oh, shoot, I know that. So the trick is I know it, but the word itself is not presenting itself. And so what I'll try to do is sometimes is talk around it. You know, the thing that and I start using vague words, you know, what I'm talking about. It's the one, you know, the one who comes in and they do the, with a cord.
Yes. Interesting. And I personally have had hearing loss, and I'm very open about it. And so I'm very visual.
Yeah.
And with this whole mask thing.
Oh, disaster.
Mask. And I'm so visual that I'm always present to my surroundings.
Yeah. And so learning to use your hands to take the place of your mouth and use visual cues to take the place of visual cues. The tricky part with and so vocabulary is not working as well. And then on the second thing that people want to notice is comprehension. My ability to get what you're saying is also frequently impacted in dementia. So I say, now listen, I want you to go ahead and get up, and we're going to go ahead and have breakfast. And then I'm going to help you get ready because we've got to go out. We're going to go out shopping. And the person goes, huh? Now,
yeah, because I'm visual.
So Teresa,
here
for you, was the problem hearing or was it comprehension?
Very good question.
So this is tricky. In dementia, what's preserved is hearing.
Interesting.
What's missing often is comprehension. But guess what your behavior would be in either case if I say something and you don't get it, whether it's through hearing or through comprehension, what will you say in reaction? You look a little puzzled and you go, huh? Or what? Now, if you're well-trained, you go, pardon? Or excuse me? Because what you're saying is, I did not hear or get what you said. Now, if it's hard of hearing, what's a standard behavior of the other person without thinking? What do we think?
Oh, they yell.
Yeah, so increase the volume.
They yell at me, and it freaks me out, and then I don't feel safe. And I'm just going based on my own personal hearing loss.
Yeah,
is they get loud because they want me to hear, and then they get close, and I'm like,
So what you're experiencing is what people who often are living with dementia experience with us who are trying to be helpful. Because in our effort to be helpful, we do something unhelpful because there is a preserved area of brain. And that preserved area says when somebody gets angry with you, what they will do is they will use the right side of the temporal lobe, which is where we have the ability to notice frequency, intensity, volume, and tone. And so that rhythm section is still capable of going, she's mad at me. I don't know what I did. What did I do?
I love that. I love that because I grew up my mother has hearing loss, and she probably is going to watch this. And that's okay, right? Because I now have it, and I now understand it. And I'm like, oh, that's why our tone and communication, I like deep tones, and I like people to really enunciate.
Yeah. And so what you can do is tell people what helps you. And people who care enough to want to care are going to start listening to that. And so it turns out for women that if we can learn to deepen our voice and to not pause, that's where people make a mistake. I don't want to pause because I break up the rhythm. But what I want to do is create a rhythm in my speech that puts a slight space between the words so your brain knows where one word starts and stops and where the next one is. And it's easier to follow along. Wow. But as soon as I get up here and I start talking like this and I say a lot of things and my mouth is, even if you have visual, it's really hard sometimes to pay attention to me.
Oh, I know. And then those pitches get really, people get really fast and I'm like, oh.
Now, what do you think's driving me? Because that's important, because when we think about dementia, we want to think about two sides of the coin, because one is the person who's living with, and then there's the person who's living with the person living with. And in our efforts to be helpful, if you look puzzled and I tried increasing volume and that just made you either frustrated or withdraw, what do you think happens to my emotion in that moment? What do you guess?
Oh, I would imagine that you get frustrated, you get anxious.
Okay. So anxiety.
Caregiver.
Yeah, anxiety and frustration. What do you think it does to the vocal cords?
It goes up.
Yeah, it tightens them up. What do you think it does to breathing?
It makes it restricted.
I'm waiting. It's like, what does it do to muscle tone? Yeah. So all the things it does are non-helpful things. And so, wow. So say wow.
Wow. Because I do this. Yeah. Wow.
Wow causes you to breathe out.
Wow.
And when you breathe out, then you can suck in oxygen. Wow. And it's also, interestingly enough, wow is a stopper. It pauses us both. Wow.
Okay.
And it's an interjection that gets me to pause, you to pause, and me to go, I would like for you to get up so we can get dressed and eat, so that we can go out.
That is amazing.
Message one.
Very helpful. Two.
Yeah. And what I did is I used visual cues of my body, deepening of my voice, pacing. But the first thing I had to do is recognize this is getting out of control for both of us. So, wow.
Yes. And then can I ask you something else?
Sure.
Because again, I'm back in healthcare, so it's been so fascinating. And especially now that people are taking care of people more at home or wherever you consider home. And I know even in my own home, there's a neighbor 2 doors down, and she looks out the window. And even this morning, I was taking out my trash, and I can just see her blank stare. And I don't know anything about her.
Right. And so one of the realities is certain types of dementia make you more curious and nervous about the people around you, because if part of my brain that holds on to information is not holding on to information, and that part of your brain is called the hippocampus, where you learn things and remember. If every time I see you come out, it's like, who is she? Why is she doing that? Does she live there? And so I'm curious, but I'm also not comfortable because I don't recognize you as a familiar person to me. And what you're doing, I want to know what you're doing, because you're out there, and it's called surveilling. I survey my environment. I'm watching my environment for things that might be risky or dangerous or interesting, because what's going on in here isn't very exciting. Or I'm nervous, I'm anxious. And what she's not doing is, hey, come help me, please. My daughter is keeping me captive, which is an option.
Okay.
Not a good one.
And that's the thing too, is, and we could go way down a whole lot of different directions with this. And I want to keep it as in layman's term again, right? Like layman's term, simply because I know that the viewers are going to be listening in. And so surveillance, now that we have...
if somebody is looking out and about, it means something inside is making me either uncomfortable or I'm not interested in, because I'm looking outward. But it also denotes that I could be also, instead of surveilling, is looking for a way out. Looking for somebody to help me get out. Because if I'm in a state where I feel that I'm not being well supported, now I could be totally wrong about that, because the part of my brain that allows me to tell what's accurate, what's inaccurate, what's a thought versus a reality, what's the intent behind the action, that part, which is in the prefrontal, is not working so well. My sense of either I want and like something, or I don't want and don't like something, and you're scaring me, is active. Unfortunately, sometimes overactive.
I
So,
mean, I'm learning so much, so
yeah.
much.
So if you see her, one thing you can try, which is, do you have your mask on or no while you're dumping out your trash?
I do not in my own yard.
Okay, cool. Then you could go, and see what she does. I mean, if she closes the curtains immediately and turns away, it's like, well, that didn't work. And all I did was I took an open hand, which is usually a greeting hand. I tipped myself back a little bit and went,
See, I'm even matching you right now.
yeah,
You know
because
what I
it's
mean?
an
Like,
autonomic. Human beings want to be classically connected to human beings. And when I did that, I said, look, it's my right hand, by the way. Did you put your right
yeah,
hand up?
right. Because I'm a group exercise instructor, so
So you do your
I
teaching,
do,
teaching right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like a yoga instructor, so I'm always mirroring.
Yeah, there you go. So that was really quick. But usually people will put, if I put my right hand up, we automatically will put up our right because that's the one we shake hands with.
Mm-hmm.
It's our greet hand. But what it really is, old history is look, no weapon.
Oh,
We are
and I
showing
love
the
history.
person, look, I come in friendship. I have nothing in my hand to hurt you. And I'm smiling, which is another signal. My eyes are open, my eyebrows go up, and I go, hey, that open greeting of, I'm excited to see you. I noticed you. Hey.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's it. And then just open and close a couple times because I'm not coming toward you. I'm not doing any of that, which is usually a signal of, look, a friendly person. See what they
What do we
do back.
do? What do we do about cultural variances?
So one of the things we can do is try this. And if she looks like, then we could nod our head.
Okay. And I do know that she is from another country.
Then in those many countries,
Now, I mean, this is going to be distinct to this specific
it will be
question because it
distinct
happens.
to this, but it can happen. And if I think that might be it, I could try.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
okay.
is also in almost all cultures viewed as a respectful. This is prayer for almost many cultures. And bringing these hands together, both showing you too, nothing in my hands.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to approach you.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to nod in respect. Because if I'll break eye contact and nod down, it says, I trust you enough, you will not harm me.
That is so good. And that's what's happening, I would say, again, as a personal experience, is that we have a lot of regional healthcare employees coming in.
We
and
sure do.
And that's what I'm talking about in this exact scenario. This is a regional healthcare worker, and her mom lives there with her.
And she feels isolated and alone, and language is not necessarily her language, and culture is not her culture. So she doesn't feel safe. So she is doing surveillance. I mean, she's keeping an eye out for safety because she doesn't have a community.
Yeah. Oh, that's good too. And maybe I should put on my mask and introduce myself.
Try just a visual and see if you indicate to her. And notice I wore a scarf because, again, wanting to be respectful. Now I notice you have a jacket on and a high neck, but again, some of the variation could simply be in clothing, in looks, because we're using a lot of visual cues since we don't have verbal communication capacity sometimes.
Wow, that is so good. That is so good. Okay, so what would you say in our last, 5-6 minutes?
Yeah.
How do you tie all this up in a pretty bow so that those come in, and when we edit video or do whatever we do, that this is going to be a closing kind of few minutes?
Yeah. So one of the things I mentioned is people have trouble with vocabulary and they have trouble understanding, but the other side of the coin is frequently in connecting and having relationships is being able to express myself. And so when I say, is there anything I can do to help you? What I'm asking for is so much thinking and trying to put the words together and come up with a message. And instead, if I say, oh, Teresa, could you help me? Because what am I saying to you in that simple message?
When
Could
you're addressing
you
me with
help me?
the name and you're asking for me to answer the question.
So what is it? Am I asking you to answer the question, or am I asking you to do something of value?
Value.
I just said you have skill, you have ability, and I could use your help. Not you're incompetent, let me help you.
That is good.
So I reversed it. And what I may be looking for is I want you to get up out of that chair and go with me. I want you to come and get something to eat. I want you to drink something. And I would say, Teresa, could you help me, please? Will you?
Wow.
Would you taste this and see if it's okay? Because what I'm saying is, Teresa, I need you to take a drink. Come on, you haven't had anything.
Yeah, I love that. So Teepa, this interim, we're going to roll out this positive care approach. Is that it? Is that
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, oh,
good
I'm
job.
all
Yeah,
about
you got
branding.
it.
Positive approach.
Yeah,
to
you guys
care,
have been
right?
active with us quite some time and building this thing and really getting team members up and ready to roll and knowledgeable about lots of what's going on in the brain and what's changing and what's not and what's preserved and what's lost. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're rolling this out, and we're starting Monday. So
Yay!
what would you give me as an advice? What is day one if I'm calling on someone?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Is anything new and interesting and exciting? Number one, you got to try it. So you got to initiate, which is what you're doing on Monday. And then you want to give yourself a break and make sure you take a deep breath and let it out, because you get a little anxious when you're trying something new. And we want to make sure it goes well.
Yes. And I did learn this because I watch Shark Tank. It's just one of my things. So Shark Tank's my favorite. And so I'm always watching how they mirror each other and how they, ask questions and things like that. And Mark Cuban said on a recent episode, he said, me, the person selling or promoting, is so much more worried about the expectations. Most people just want to know they're going to get the help. And it's usually just the easy button.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, so one of the very first things that we make sure we do is get permission. Get permission to have an interaction. And it usually just starts with, Teresa, hey, it's Teepa.
Yeah.
I am
Teepa
so glad
Snow.
to see you.
Teepa, I love it. I love it that I do know your name, Teepa.
Yeah. And I actually started it with Teresa. So in other words, I gave you value and got what's called the reticular activating system, the primitive part of your brain that goes, pay attention to this, to go, yes, you're talking to me.
Wow, that is so good. So good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
It
you.
takes all of us. So I am so glad Interim has stepped up and is ready to roll. And I'm excited for everybody. Yeah, I'm excited for everybody that you touch, because when we do it well, it makes such a difference.
It already is making a difference. I literally reached out to Polly. Oh, yeah. And Polly schedules everything for you. And this all started back in October. And I finally called Polly and I said, Polly, for me, it was on my side, not her side. It was my side. And I'm like, Polly, what are the dates? And she told me, and then she gave me another set of dates. And I was like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm prepared. But at the end of the day, all I have to do, I love interview and I love education. I love this. I could do this all day long.
You're better than me, because I could do it for a while and then I need a break.
Well, you go cook, because you cook. I do not cook at all. Ooh. I do not cook. I craft and I paint. Okay. Now you knit.
I do. I knit. I crochet. I go work in the yard. I do woodworking projects. I like to use myself as many different ways as I can, because that keeps it healthy.
Yes, and that's probably maybe where we do relate. Is there comes a point? Yes, I say I could do this all day. I take that back.
I can't. Not
I
do it
was in the classroom. I was in the classroom as a long-term sub last year when all of this changed, and it was at the high school, and it was all of a sudden masks were enforced at a high school level, and I was like, you know. So now I'm back in healthcare, and I love it. I love it. I love being home with Interim, and I love getting to know you. So thank you. My name is Teresa Snyder.
Thank you. My name is Teepa Snow. Good job. You got it.
Genius. Teepa Snow is the genius. It's not a tip of snow. It's Teepa Snow, y'all. Look her up. I put her website down at the bottom. This is going to be shared out on many platforms. If you have any questions at all, reach out, send us a message. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very good.
Very good. See you all later.
Wow.